Mountaineers, I just saw Avengers Infinity War the other day, and I thought it was amazing. And that movie got me thinking, Marvel is severely lacking a formal presence in the Disney parks. So today I thought, why not talk about the first of what I hope is many Marvel attractions, Mission Breakout. And yes, this is my first DCA video. Well, first attraction anyway. In 2017, Mission Breakout opened in Disney California Adventure as the replacement for the West Coast version of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. But let's start at the beginning. In the late 1980s, a second phase of development was being designed for Disneyland Paris, then called Euro Disney. Included was a free-fall type ride in Frontierland that was to be named Geyser Mountain. It would have been part roller coaster, part free-fall ride that shot guests up a vertical shaft. The plan was eventually scrapped, but was picked up by Disney's Hollywood Studios, then Disney MGM Studios, as a part of a massive expansion to their US park. In the early 1990s, Hollywood Studios was planning a new land called Sunset Boulevard, and Imagineers wanted to have a thrill ride at the end of it.
Sunset Boulevard. The past lives here.
Several attractions had already been proposed, including Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers, which would later be made into the Indiana Jones adventure at Disneyland. Still needing a major e-ticket attraction, the idea of a drop shaft ride came up and was chosen. There had been several proposed ideas for haunted attractions, including a ride based on Stephen King novels, a Vincent Price ghost tour, a Mel Brooks narrated ride, a real hotel, and a whodunit murder mystery, but none progressed into development. Walt Disney Imagineering eventually took inspiration from Rod Serling's anthology series featured in The Twilight Zone as a foundation for their original story.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Imagineers mused that the attraction would be able to take guests into the fifth dimension that Rod Serling always described as unlocking in every episode. With the project in firm development, Disney licensed the rights to use the Twilight Zone intellectual property from CBS. The Imagineering team settled on a 1930s-era Hollywood hotel with a Twilight Zone theme, but a new ride system had to be built, which would allow both more capacity inside the ride and make the drop fast. Otis Elevator Company created the vertical ride system, and Eaton Kenway, a ride vehicle that could drive itself horizontally. Joe Dante directed the ride's pre-show film. The archival footage of Rod Serling used in the pre-show was taken from the episode It's a Good Life.
Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
This, as you may recognize, is a map of the United States.
Mark Silverman provided the voice for Serling in the attraction, and Serling's wife, Carol Serling, approved the casting of Silverman after several auditions. Site clearing and prep began in early 1992. A sinkhole led to the sites being moved slightly. The tower's interior and exterior design took inspiration from existing Southern California landmarks, including the Baltimore Hotel and Mission Inn. The distinctive Spanish colonial revival architecture features on and around the attraction's roof were designed so that the near facade, which is visible from Epcot, would blend seamlessly with the skyline of the Morocco Pavilion and Epcot's World Showcase. After construction ended, the ride was set to open on July 4th, 1994, but the Tower of Terror opened on July 22nd, 1994, along with the rest of Sunset Boulevard.
Coming up next, get ready to hear all about Disney news on this week's Matterhorn Mondays. Then, it's Historyland, where extinct Disney attractions come to life.
Hollywood Tower Hotel. I'm sorry, we don't have any vacancies. When will we? Let me check. It seems you're in luck. Something just opened up.
The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Drop in if you dare.
The attraction opened to almost universal praise and quickly became the most popular ride in the park. If you watched my podcast the other week, you saw Alex and I put for our best themed queues in Disneyland, but if we were to include queues from all the parks, Tower of Terror would definitely win. Guests made their way to the Hollywood Tower Hotel through the front gate. Guests then walked along a cracked, curved pathway that leads to the hotel. The pathway goes past overgrown gardens, signs pointing to the stables, a bowling green, tennis courts, swimming pools, and a vine-covered pavilion. In most parks, 1930s jazz music plays in the queue area. Entering through the hotel's front doors, guests encounter an interior designed to give the impression that the Hollywood Tower Hotel has been left untouched since the night of its closure. The lobby is covered in dust and draped in cobwebs, and throughout there are other signs of the hotel's abrupt closure. Past the front desk, the main elevators are in a dilapidated state, and a sign reads, "Out of order." Guests are informed by bellhops that their rooms are not ready yet, and they are then ushered into the hotel library, which houses the hotel's collection of books, antiques, an old television set, and various pieces of Twilight Zone memorabilia scattered throughout the room. Through the library window, guests can observe a severe thunderstorm raging outside. With a crash of thunder and lightning, the power suddenly goes out, except for the television set, which crackles to life and plays the opening sequence from the 4th and 5th seasons of The Twilight Zone.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hollywood, 1939. Amid the glitz and the glitter of a bustling young movie town at the height of its golden age, the Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right, a beacon for the show business elite. Now, something is about to happen that will change all that. The time is now, on an evening very much like the one we have just witnessed. Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard, because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone.
The episode goes on to depict the events of a stormy night in 1939 when a lightning bolt struck the tower and caused 5 people, a celebrity couple, a rising child star, her nanny, and a hotel bellhop to vanish from the elevator. The television then turns off and the guests are directed through the boiling room where they await the maintenance service elevator's arrival. In this version of the attraction, Rod Serling's voice greets passengers the moment the elevator doors close, saying,
You are the passengers in a most uncommon elevator about to ascend into your very own episode of The Twilight Zone.
The elevator rises for a few seconds before coming to its first stop. The doors open to reveal a long, dimly lit hotel corridor with overgrown plants and doors to guest rooms with morning newspapers and room service trays outside. There is a single window at the opposite end of the corridor. A violent thunderstorm is raging and lightning flashes outside the window. The 5 missing passengers from 1939 appear for several moments, turning to face the elevator and beckoning guests to join them. Then they disappear into a burst of electricity. The corridor fades away, but the window remains until it appears to be floating in a dark field of stars. The elevator doors close and the car continues its ascent. Serling's narration goes on, saying,
One stormy night long ago, 5 people stepped through the door of an elevator into a nightmare. That door is opening once again. This time, it's opening for you.
The elevator stops once more. The doors open to what looks like a maintenance room, but slowly transforms into a field of stars. The elevator car emerges horizontally from the lift shaft and enters a section called the 5th Dimension, which is a collection of sights and sounds in star fields, again in the style of the television show's opening sequence. A rendition of the Twilight Zone theme plays throughout. The scene ends as the elevator reaches another star field, which splits and opens much like the elevator doors. The elevator enters another vertical shaft, this one pitch black. Serling's voice is heard again, saying,
You are about to discover what lies beyond the fifth dimension, beyond the deepest, darkest corner of the imagination, in the Tower of Terror.
On the last word of Serling's narration, the elevator starts its drop sequence. Rather than a simple gravity-powered drop, however, the elevator is pulled downwards, causing most riders to rise off their seats, held down by a seatbelt. At least once during the drop sequence, wide elevator doors in front of the riders open to reveal a view of the park from a height of 157 feet. However, the drop is only 130 feet, from the height of a 13-story building. The elevator drops at a top speed of 39 miles per hour. In the Hollywood Studios version, the back of the Hollywood Tower Hotel sign partially obstructs the view. One great thing about the Florida version is that the drop patterns are randomized, where the ride vehicle will drop or rise various distances at different intervals. Other added effects include projected images of the breaking window, wind effects, lightning flashes, and ominous blue-lit figures of the 5 ghostly original riders. These changes were made so that each trip on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is a slightly different experience. The ride system was reprogrammed in its 4th conversion, so that the ride allows for any number of randomized drops and lifts. When guests enter the drop shaft, a computer randomly chooses one of 4 drop profiles, one of which is a modified version of the ride's Tokyo version. Regardless of the number of randomized drops and lifts, each drop sequence always features one faux drop, meant to startle the riders, and one complete drop through the entire tower at the top speed of 39 miles per hour. After a series of these drops have been made, the elevator returns to the basement of the decrepit Hollywood Tower Hotel, past a curious array of abandoned items. A short clip plays showing elements from the Season 5 opening sequence, along with the 1939 elevator passengers, and Rod Serling falling into the vortex seen in the Season 3 opening. Serling's voice then says,
A warm welcome back to those of you who made it, and a friendly word of warning, something you won't find in any guidebook. The next time you check into a deserted hotel on the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you know just what kind of vacancy you're filling, or you may find yourself a permanent resident of the Twilight Zone.
Guests then exit the elevator, leaving the hotel through the gift shop. On leaving the elevator, guests are led through the hotel corridor towards what would appear to be the old lost and found desk of the hotel. However, it's now where the photos taken on the ride may be purchased. Beyond this desk, guests can pass a cracked fountain to the left, and on the right can be seen the Hollywood Tower Hotel's dining room, previously called the Sunset Room. The menu placed outside the closed double doors is dated October 31st, 1939. Guests then enter the shop, which is called Tower Merchandise. The shop, in keeping with the theme of the hotel, has cracked walls and is dimly lit. There, guests may purchase Twilight Zone merchandise and Hollywood Tower themed souvenirs, including hotel bathrobes and slippers.
Coming up next, get ready to hear all about Disney news on this week's Matterhorn Mondays.
There is a place
It's Historyland,
like no other,
where extinct Disney
where
attractions
walk-on
come to
monsters can feed you with wonder.
Hey, the name's Rocket, and I need your help. The Collector has trapped my friends, the Guardians of the Galaxy, in his weird freak show. Check it out. This is the joint we're in, and we need you to help us break out. Got it? Good. Now move it. I gotta go.
Here, there is magic for days.
Welcome to Disney's California Adventure.
Today, the $1.4 billion attraction unlocked its gates to greet thousands of visitors. Many park goers say they wanted to be able to say they were at the park on opening day.
In 2001, DCA opened as the long-awaited second park in Anaheim, and originally plans were drawn for a Tower of Terror-like attraction to be placed over in Frontierland in anticipation for the massive crowds in DCA. However, it became apparent very quickly that DCA was struggling, so a West Coast version of Tower of Terror was drawn up in 2001, and construction started soon after. While similar in concept and theme to the original attraction in Florida, the attraction at Disney California Adventure, which opened in 2004, featured some significant differences. The exterior of Disney's California Adventure Hotel had architectural features reminiscent of the Pueblo Deco styles found throughout Southern California, during the golden age of Hollywood. The California version also had a slightly different queue area. The boiler room scene in the queue area had 2 floors instead of the 1 floor in the original Florida version. The 2 floors allowed for 1 elevator in one shaft to have guests on ride, while the other elevator on the same shaft was loading guests. There were 3 elevator shafts in the DCA version, with 2 elevators per shaft for a total of 6 elevators operating. Like the East Coast sibling, Tower of Terror became the most popular ride in the park, despite being an inferior version. But let's skip forward a few years. In 2012, Cars Land opened, and with it, Radiator Springs Racers, which toppled Tower of Terror's spot as most popular ride in DCA. Then, in 2014, something happened that would change the fate of this attraction forever. Guardians of the Galaxy released in theaters to universal praise. The movie became the highest grossing movie of that year, so when Disney announced a ride based on it, came as no surprise. But what did come as a surprise was what it was going to replace. Plans were announced at the 2016 Comic-Con for the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction to replace the Tower of Terror.
It takes you into the world of Guardians of the Galaxy in this really immersive, exciting experience that features the really quirky and beloved characters from the film in a whole new narrative that no one's ever seen.
This is the first Disney attraction based on the Marvel Comics characters in the United States, and may be followed by many other Marvel-themed rides at Disney California Adventure. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Benicio del Toro, and Bradley Cooper all reprised their roles as Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, the Collector, and the voice of Rocket, respectively. The ride's storyline revolves around the Guardians of the Galaxy being captured by the Collector, Tannelir Tavan, and being held in his warehouse, and Rocket enlists your help to break them out. The queue is transformed from an abandoned hotel to a museum of sorts, holding some of the Collector's most valuable items. Here you can find many Easter eggs from the various Marvel movies, including an Ultron body from Avengers Age of Ultron, Cosmo the Space Dog, and you can even find Figment from Epcot's Journey into Imagination. As you enter the queue, a video plays on loop of the Collector and his assistant revealing that the Guardians of the Galaxy are the new addition to his collection. The Collector says that only the guests can access the warehouse because their hands are coded into the system, and all they have to do is raise their hands to be scanned. Guests are then led into the Collector's office, where a video of himself starts playing, but Rocket enters the room through the vents to explain his plan for breaking out the rest of the Guardians. The guests will use their hands when they enter the gantry lift to help get Rocket to the top to blow up the generator so the Guardians can escape. Guests are then led into the boarding room for the gantry lift, as the Collector says,
My dear friends, this is the moment you have been waiting for. Rocket unplugs you and starts things rocking!
But Rocket unplugs the system and inserts Peter's Walkman, starting one of the 6 songs: Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Give Up the Funk, Born to Be Wild, I Want You Back, Free Ride, and Burning Love. The gantry lift rises to the generator where Rocket blows it up, freeing his friends but also cutting the power to the lift. As Rocket tries to regain control, the lift accelerates up and down as guests see the Guardians fighting off the different monsters in the warehouse. Finally, Rocket restores power to the lift and the Guardians escape with Mantis. There are 6 versions of the ride, each with its own song, unique visuals, and drop sequence. I'm not going to list all of them here, just so I don't give away any of the surprises. Due to Marvel's 1994 contract with Universal Parks & Resorts, predating Disney's 2009 purchase of Marvel Entertainment, the Marvel brand is not allowed to be used as part of the ride's title or advertising. James Gunn directed all of the scenes involving the cast, and while Disney Imagineer Joe Rohde, famous for Expedition Everest and the World of Pandora, was lead designer for the attraction. While many people were excited for this new attraction, many DCA purists hated the idea of a Marvel-themed ride taking over the tower, including me to some extent. The ride closed as planned on January 3rd, and for the next 4 months, changes were made, converting the ride. And on May 27th, 22 days after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 released in theaters, the ride officially opened to the public to massive fanfare. The success of the ride made it possible for the entire Avengers area to come to the park, so here's to the success of that. While the idea of Marvel-themed attractions is still hated among Disney purists, Mission Breakout is proof that Marvel-themed rides have a place in the Disney parks, and, me personally, I can't wait to see what else is in store. And that's the history of Mission Breakout. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. And I just want to apologize for how long it took this video to come out. As you saw from my video I uploaded last week, a lot of stuff has been going on, including my hard drive dying. It's a long story. If you don't know the story, go ahead and watch my frequently asked questions video that I uploaded last week. And if you've seen Infinity War or ridden Mission Breakout, let me know in the comments what you think. Also, please don't spoil the movie for those who haven't seen it. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Twitter and to support me on Patreon. Also, check out my weekly podcast we do with Alex the Historian. All the links will be down in the description. And as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.